Good evening. I have the time is 7:30, so I will call the public hearing and regular business meeting of the Mayor and Council for the City of Snellville, Georgia, Monday, March 24th, 2025. We do have a full house tonight. I would ask everyone to please silence or turn off your cell phones. We have called the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We are missing one council member. Gretchen Schultz is not feeling well this evening. Tonight we will have an invocation to start to be given by Pastor Jarrell Collins.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, men and women. Good evening, City of Snellville. Let's go to the Lord. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for your grace and your mercy because we need it every single day. Thank you, Father God, for the opportunity to be here in this room. Thank you, Father God, that you will give us ears to hear every single word and take every word to heart. Father, give us a heart to be open to every word that is spoken. Thank you, Father, that you are the great judge and you will lead us in the best way in every decision that we make, especially this council. Father, I pray for patience in the room, patience in our heart, patience in our minds, that we will be patient with each other, Lord God, because as a city, we all are here and we all are after the same exact thing. And so, Father, bring us to one accord. And it may not look like complete agreement, but I believe, Lord God, that your desire is to slowly get us to a place of complete agreement. And so I pray that we are patient also with you as you bring us closer together as a city of one. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Collins. Very nice to see you. Next, if you are able, please stand for the pledge to be led by Norman Carter. We are getting to a full house. I will let you all know that we do have an overflow room in the community room, and there is a video of what's going on in here if you would, if anybody would like to go there. Next, we have under ceremonial matters, we have a proclamation. Proclamation 2025-06, Month of the Military Child. Whereas the Department of Defense has consistently acknowledged the vital role of military children and youth, and whereas these resilient young individuals demonstrate unwavering commitment, adaptability, and courage in the face of unique challenges, and whereas military children contribute significantly to the strength and resilience of our military families and communities, and whereas their sacrifices often go unnoticed, yet they play an essential role in supporting the Army's mission. And whereas the Month of the Military Child provides an opportunity to celebrate their achievements, honor their past, cherish the present, and shape a brighter future. Therefore, let it be known that we recognize and appreciate the contributions of military children and youth, and we commit to providing them with quality care and positive youth development. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Barbara Bender, Mayor of the City of Snellville, where everybody's proud to be somebody, do hereby join with the City Council to declare April 2025 as Month of the Military Child, and call upon the individual citizens, government agencies, churches, civic organizations in the city to observe the month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities as a way to bring our mission and vision into reality. Proclaim this 24th day, March 2025. And here to accept this proclamation is Cricket Agee. Where are you? Come on up. And the ladies of the auxiliary. Now we'll move on to the minutes. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, make a motion that we approve the minutes of the March 10th, 2025 meetings as published.
There's a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? There is a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. That is 5 in favor. Got to learn to count again. With none opposed, so the minutes are approved. We have no invited guests, committee, or department reports, so we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve tonight's agenda, March 24th, 2025.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Nope, I'll get Norman on that one too. There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda as published. All in favor, please raise your hand. That is 5 in favor with none opposed. Now we'll move into our public hearing. I would like to read some instructions that I read at the beginning of every public hearing. In order to help everyone have an equal opportunity to be heard and minimize distraction, I again ask the audience to please silence or turn off any electronic communication devices. I would like to remind everyone present that this is a legal, official public meeting at which important business is conducted, and it is a legal process. The city attorney has advised the council that audience outbursts, including applause, have been used by the courts to overturn zoning decisions. Therefore, I ask that you refrain from applause or other extraneous remarks. Each side will be allowed a total of, typically we do 15 minutes. We are extending that to 20 minutes per side. 20 minutes for support and 20 minutes in opposition. The applicant will also have 20 minutes to present their case. This is not per person, but in total. So you may wish to consider coordinating your arguments beforehand or consider having a spokesperson present your position. Because this is extra time being granted ahead of time, we will not extend that 20-minute period. If council members ask questions of you, it will not be deducted from your time. Should you have the opportunity to come to the microphone to make a comment in support or in opposition to any of the requests before us, please state your name and address for the public record before beginning. Also, you will only be given one opportunity to speak. Also, direct all of your comments to myself and the council and not to the applicant or another speaker. I also would like to let everybody know that we do have a lot of people here that I believe are here for this public hearing. After this hearing is done, should you choose to leave, we'll give a recess of about 5 minutes to allow everyone to exit the room. We do have a few other items on our agenda tonight, so if you do plan to leave, we do ask that you go ahead and exit the building. Standing in the lobby, we're not allowed to close the doors and it's very loud. So we would like to be able to just finish up our agenda once the public hearing is done. So I will give a few minutes for everybody to that chooses to leave can do that. With those instructions, the way the public hearing works for anyone who has not been to something like this before, our planning director, Jason Thompson, will give an overview of the project from the planning department. Then we will have the applicant will come forward to present their case. The council at that time may ask questions of the applicant. After the applicant is done, then I will call for anyone in support of the project to come forward. That will start the 20-minute for that. Once we have no more people wanting to speak there, then we will open the floor to any opposition, and then that will start the 20-minute time period for that. With that, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. We're here tonight to discuss case number RZ24-04 and Land Use Plan Amendment 24-02. Again, it's a request to amend the rezoning map and the land use plan. The location is 3197 Classic Drive. It's approximately 95.386 acres on tax parcel 50931-06. The current zoning is RS30. The requested zoning is basically an RS5, a modified version of RS5. The current future land use plan indicates the area as park and recreation with a request to amend to residential low density. The current status of the development is 125 lot single family detached residential subdivision with open space, with the property owner being Summit Crest Country Club Inc. of Snellville, Georgia, and the applicant of KJ Luxury Homes LLC is being represented tonight by Mahaffey, Pickens and Cucker. Shane Lanham is the attorney for the applicant. Just some quick findings of facts on the process so far. On September 10th, 2024, the department received applications. Those applications were scheduled for consideration on October 22nd. However, in an effort to refine the plan, we finally received the request was tabled until we received a plan to move forward with January 31st, 2025 to be presented to the Planning Commission on February 25th. The former site, or the site was formerly served as the Summit Chase Golf Club and Country Club, developed in the 70s, and this project includes the back nine of the golf course, driving range, clubhouse, swimming pool, tennis courts, cart barn, maintenance building, and the surface parking. Again, the applicant intends to develop what is now a 125 lot single family detached residential community. The proposed development is located less than 1 mile from Highway 78 and can be accessed on a single entrance on Classic Drive in Summit Chase or out of Classic Drive or to the right to Rosebud. As far as we'll take it in two pieces. One will be the land use plan amendment analysis, and the other will be the site plan and rezoning analysis. The land use plan amendment analysis indicates in the 2045 comprehensive plan that this area will be indicated for low density residential with a maximum density of 3.99 lots per acre. The 2045 plan places the entirety of the proposed development in the Summit Chase character area, which consists of primarily residential developments, estate residential, and park recreation land uses. In the Summit Chase character area, which is predominantly low-density residential, estate residential, and park recreation. The vision is a reinvigorated neighborhood. Summit Chase is a beautiful community. This is directly from the plan. With an enhanced feeling of civic pride and community togetherness, homes in the neighborhood are well-maintained and housing values are stable. Key implementation strategies are code enforcement violations, addressing those, encouraging neighborhood watch, exploring opportunities for multi-use, and focus on reinforcing neighborhood stability by encouraging more home ownership and maintenance or upgrade of existing properties. We found that these standards are in compliance with the new proposed development for the low-density, single-family, detached residential lots at less than 1.5 units per acre. Now we'll shift over a little bit to the zoning map amendment, which deals more closely with the submitted plan, how it lays out, and then how it affects the neighboring zones. I'd also like to add that the development that you can see to the southeast of of this plan is actually Soleil at Summit Chase, which was approved for residential housing for ages 55 and over at a density of 3.99 units per acre. So the original plan that we received, there's been several versions, but the one that the Planning Commission saw had houses, and it was 150, and just to kind of give a little history, and there were 30 of those homes were placed in the middle of the encumbered area. I'll let the applicant speak a little bit more on that, but there are covenants that exist on the property that only allows one lot per parcel, that basically allows for these two lots here, which by the time we saw a plan for the Planning Commission, there was believed that those encumbrances were going to be removed by the HOA. Since that time, those encumbrances or those covenants have been voted on, I believe, and that those will remain in place. So that required the applicant to submit a new plan that took those buildings off of the central space in the middle and convert them back into green space. So what you have now is 125 lots, with every lot over at least 10,000 square feet. The minimums for RS5 are 5,000 square feet, and we don't have an RS10 or it would fit here. We have 5, 15, and 30. So typically, as the best path legally is you reduce it down and then modify it through conditions to hold it at what the applicant, if you were to choose to approve, would hold. The zoning would be RS5, but not necessarily. The lot sizes would be locked in by the plan. So you can see there's an emergency access drive to the north on green turf, I believe. Would only be accessed through emergency vehicles as determined by the fire marshal. If there's no requirement by the fire marshal based on the lot size, I assume that access point would be taken away. I'm not certain if that's the case at this time. The main access, and really the reason for the revision the first time was to, originally access was shown for the whole development on green turf. Felt like that was a big ask of that road to take all those homes, and it'd be better handled to offer a left and a right out of the main amenity area. So what you see here is actually that drive where it connects, and how you can outside of the existing amenity area, and then it allows ingress and egress on both sides. They have added the unencumbered space back in. There is currently, I think, 29 acres of open space on this project, as well as a 15-foot buffer on the outside of the lots as proposed that are open space and will be deeded to the HOA, not part of the proposed lots. You see the road configuration is basically just a relic of the existing golf course. There's not much you can do outside of what's there as far as the design goes. We did receive some pretty basic conceptual building plans from the applicant. I'm sure there'd be several variations of this type, but 2 stories, I believe a minimum of 2,400 square foot homes. So there'll be larger homes on 10,000 square feet or larger lots. We did, based on the site plan that we've received, we did add some conditions. They were not passed up to you by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission voted no to the LUP, so none of those conditions were transferred. And as a matter of the record, we'd like to read in the conclusions from staff and those conditions that we recommend should you choose to approve. We recommend approval of LUP 24-02. We recommend approval of 24-04. And I'll read the conditions directly into the record. The property shall be developed in accordance with the 318 conceptual rezoning site plan entitled Master Plan for Summit Chase West, dated 3/18/2025, received March 20th, 2025, with modifications permitted to meet conditions of zoning of state, county, and city regulations. Substantial variation from conceptual zoning site plan, typically a more intense configuration as determined by the Director of Planning and Development, will require mayor and council approval. The building setbacks: front yard 40 feet, rear yard 30 feet, side and interior yard 10 feet, with a side street yard or corner lot 25 feet with a maximum coverage of 45%. Again, these are parts of the codes, but we wanted to put them in here to make sure the expectations were clear. Number 3, all driveways shall be a minimum of 22 feet in length, measured from the front of the garage door to the edge of the sidewalk closest to the dwelling, and shall be wide enough to accommodate the parallel parking of 2 vehicles. Number 4, developer is to provide an emergency access gate at the connection point to the Green Drive cul-de-sac for sole use of emergency first responders. and I read this into the record as well, regarding the blasting. All blasting activities shall be in accordance with the Georgia Blasting Standards Act. Before blasting work begins, a blasting notification plan must be reviewed and approved by the Planning and Development Department. Said plan shall include signage, email notification, and any other notification deemed necessary. Number 6, uses involving adult entertainment, including the sale or display of adult magazines, books, videos, and other defined by the Adult Entertainment Ordinance in effect on this date. This condition is imposed, are prohibited. And number 7, signs higher than 15 feet and larger than 225 square feet in area are prohibited. I'd be happy to answer any questions or provide clarification on any of the issues you have at this time.
Mr. Thompson, this latest plan is showing a 15-foot buffer around the whole development, and the prior plan had 35-foot buffer.
That's correct.
What's the actual buffer required by our code between residential developments?
A residential, single-family, detached, low density does not have a required buffer. They're considered compatible land uses.
So we have no buffer requirement, but this plan is showing a 15-foot buffer.
That's correct.
Okay. And then also, just want to clarify as well, we are going, the application is for R5. However, these lots are at least 10,000 square feet.
Yes,
correct?
in the original consortium of the 150, we analyzed the lots, and I'm not certain about what the remaining. I would assume they probably got a little bigger, if anything. The majority were in between 11 and 14,000 square feet with a 10,000 square foot minimum, and that would be conditioned per the site plan if as part of the approval as well.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify too, I know we discussed this in the work session, but just to make clear, if this were to be approved at R5, that another developer can't come in with that zoning and build something to R5 when this plan is showing R5, but it's been conditioned up to 10,000.
That's correct, and as a matter of practice in the city of Snellville since I've been here, there's always been condition 1, which ties the submitted site plan and all its detailed and designed to the actual approval. So anything outside of strict compliance to this exact plan would require another public hearing process, public notification, and then ultimately mayor and council approval. So if it was to sell or get put on the shelf for 5 or 10 years, what you approve is what's been approved and nothing other than that.
Okay, did you want to add? Any other council members have questions for Mr. Thompson?
Just a clarification, the main change from the January 31st to the present plan that was received stamped March 20th is the difference in the number of units.
Correct.
So we go from 150 to 125.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other changes, the main road access points?
No,
for
no,
example?
ma'am. The
Okay.
original, the original submission showed. This is prior to the original submission showed the encumbered. I believe the encumbered space had nothing on it, and it also had no access outside of what was being shown to the north. The second plan, in an effort to make it better, access was a big problem or an issue that we had. The access was taken, and then there was actually homes put into the encumbered area, and the buffer was increased. Then as a result of actions, I believe, by the HOA, and I'll let the applicant be opine on that, they had to take those out. They took the homes out of the encumbered area, reduced the lot count to 125, and also reduced the buffer from 35 to 15 to what we have now, 125 lots, no homes on the encumbered space, with access on both to the north and the northeast, and one with only emergency access. Thank you.
Any other council members have questions for Mr. Thompson?
I do, please. Jason, taking into account the 11 acres that remain covenant as green space and the 15-foot buffer that's going all the way around the development, how many acres total is allotted as green space?
That would be for those two pieces or total?
Total for the whole project?
This one shows 29 acres. The
Okay.
previous one was 26 acres.
Okay, so it's a little less than 30%.
Yeah, well, 20% is the required number
Okay.
of the code. So both plans were, had additional green space.
Okay.
And just for a note, there was approximately 33 lots within, in the previous design within that encumbered space. So you can kind of place a balance of what was actually there in a number. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
One question for you, Mr. Thompson. With a 15-foot buffer around the, the property, and what would be allowed to happen to that property? Is that?
The buffer as currently shown and what we believe is best practices for a buffer, and we've done it both ways, is it would be deeded and restricted to open space, and if it was planted as a buffer, it would basically be non-removable or alterable by certainly any new resident, and typically is demarcated as such from their yard so that the buffer doesn't become part of their property, and it is kept in its intended condition, which is to buffer sound and sights, and typically becomes like just an enhanced landscape strip over time, or a little piece. But you're not allowed, either homeowner on either side typically is not allowed to destroy or change said area, but the HOA is responsible for maintenance, underbrush, anything that might occur, trash. They are required to keep it up as well, but it would be deeded back to the HOA.
Okay, so that's as opposed to if the applicant built strictly to our code and didn't put in the buffer. If my memory serves me correct, our minimum lot width is 65 feet.
It is.
So with 15, so that'd be almost another 1,000 square foot to the size of the lots?
Yeah, the 15-foot, if it was put back into the lot, could also serve as a buffer. You just wouldn't have, it gives you a different additional space from home to home. What it doesn't do is allow you to control the plantings or the maintenance of the space. So it's really two ways to do it. Under its current configuration, it would be outside of the property owner, the new property owner's lot lines.
Right, and with a buffer, no one will be able to build or
That's
place
correct.
anything within that?
It's protected,
Okay.
and just of being a buffer.
One other question on that buffer as well. Is there any plan in here, this might be a question for the applicant, whether it would be a planted buffer or undisturbed buffer? It's not required, so.
I believe as indicated within the a previous letter of intent or an email, and I'm speaking off of memory and I'll allow them to speak on a little further, is that it would be graded to basically develop the lot for stormwater, then replanted. It would be a replanted buffer. Undisturbed in this area wouldn't work because you've got to catch all the water, so it would be regraded and then replanted with appropriate plants and trees.
Any other council members have questions for Mr. Thompson? Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Is the applicant here? You'd like to step forward?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. My name is Shane Lanham with Mahaffey, Pickens, Tucker, here on behalf of the applicant tonight requesting your approval of our land use plan amendment and proposed rezoning of the subject property from the RS30 zoning classification to what is, as Mr. Thompson described, a modified RS5 RS5. The land use map amendment that we've requested would change that designation from park recreation to residential low density. The subject property is approximately 95 acres. As has been discussed, that is the back nine, the old back nine of Summit Chase Country Club. The proposed development under that modified RS5 zoning classification has, I think this one has 126 lots on that site plan that we submitted, but the density at that lot count is 1.32 units per acre. And so, as has been discussed, that site plan has evolved as we've moved throughout the process from the original submittal. Some of the big changes were after a community meeting that we actually had at the clubhouse and discussed, and among those topics discussed, some of the major concerns that we heard were the access to the subject property. As was discussed, the original access point was coming in only off of Green Turf Drive to the north, and as Mr. Thompson indicated, that road, I think we heard from staff and members of the community, they felt like that was not an appropriate location for the primary main access drive of the proposed development. And so what we also talked about was if we had the flexibility to utilize the central 10 or 11 acres, which I've been calling the encumbered area, that would allow us to pull lots away from the western side of the subject property. It would allow us to pull lots into the center of the development and provide a wider buffer. So at Planning Commission, as was discussed, we presented a site plan that had essentially the same unit count. I think we went from maybe 148 to 150, but added a main access drive from Classic Drive through the existing amenities area. We put lots on this central encumbered area. As Mr. Thompson indicated, it was approximately 30 lots, and that allowed us to pull lots off of Beaver Creek Lane away from Timberline Trace, put them in that central area, and provide a 35-foot wide buffer. The challenges with doing that were, as you may be able to tell from reviewing the site plan and being familiar with the site, as I'm sure you all are, that entrance from Classic Drive involved some stream crossing and some significant engineering challenges to get not just across those streams, which have enhanced protections based on their location in one of those watershed overlay protection areas, but topography as well. So that came at some significant engineering and design effort, and just for sake of the fact, it is a very expensive and challenging entrance. But we were happy to do that because we think ultimately that version of the site plan provided some benefits that we would hope we hoped would be well received by the community. And so we later learned that, and this is my understanding without having direct communications with the members of the HOA board, my communications have been limited to their council as they're represented by council. But while it's our position that we think there are, to put it one way, maybe some vulnerabilities in the enforceability of those encumbrances, we sort of took what we understand to be a recent action by the HOA to decline to cooperate with the property owner, the applicant, for the removal of those encumbrances. And so we said, let's just respect their wishes in that regard. That's something that we would prefer not to fight about anyways. And so let's revise the site plan based on that action. And so that's sort of the trail that got us to this point here. So we've removed the majority of those lots from that encumbered area. We, however, have maintained that connection to Classic Drive with the emergency only access to Green Turf. But we were still able, I think importantly, to maintain a buffer. So it's a 15-foot wide buffer that would be proposed or has been proposed by the applicant as a graded and replanted buffer. So a buffer in which, if there is not a need to grade or clear that area and there is existing vegetation that can provide visual screening and buffering, that we would leave that. It would be our desire to leave that. It's not to be flippant, but it costs money and effort to cut down trees and clear and grade area. And so if we can leave certain of those areas undisturbed, that would be our preference. But where there is that limited land disturbance, that it would be replanted, to provide a buffering in between the subject property, the proposed development, and adjacent residential uses. So we were able to maintain a buffer, albeit a 15-foot wide one, but also the dimensional standards that were initially proposed in our original application. And so those are a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. That's double the code requirement for RS5 at 5,000 square feet. An increase of the minimum lot width, so code is 50 feet, we're at 65 feet for the proposed development. The minimum home size we proposed is 2,400 square feet. I think code is 1,000 square feet for RS5. And also 2-car garages for every home. Code is 1 car. We've proposed 2-car. And so we felt like those were important characteristics to try to maintain as we look to find an appropriate use of the subject property, given its context and given some really inherently very difficult, physical challenges that the property presents. It's got an awkward shape. I'm sure most rezoning cases that y'all have reviewed have not had property that's shaped like this, and that's just owing to the property's unique history. But the physical challenges that are proposed by the property, topography, water on the property, and its odd shape provide additional challenges. But we felt like an RS5 zoning classification, but modified to try to be a little bit more specifically tailored to the surrounding area, to keep it at a lot count and density that was compatible with surrounding land uses and communities at 1.32 units an acre. We felt like this site plan proposed here tonight maintained some of those important characteristics. So I would offer to council as justification for the requested future land use map amendment and the rezoning, the fact that the property is designated as that park residential designation. You can see here on the future land use map where that kind of oddly shaped green surrounded by all that taupe or pale yellow, which is that residential low density future land use map designation. And so we would submit to council that classifying the subject property as that same low density residential is appropriate, especially given the fact that it appears that elsewhere on the future land use map, those other park recreation designations are for city or county parks. I think Briscoe, Oak Road, South Gwinnett Park. I think those are the other, the parks and recreation designation there. So you kind of, government, local government parks. So we would submit for the subject property being privately owned that a residential low density designation, which is consistent with all of the adjacent property, would be an appropriate designation for the property. Would also submit that the proposed development is, we think, has been carefully thought out and designed and crafted to try to provide a balance between, what the code would theoretically allow and a design that's tried to be more tailored to the subject property as far as density and lot size and buffering and things like that. And so 1.32 units an acre, we would submit that the proposed development is compatible with that surrounding residential development, which includes, as was discussed, that Soleil development adjacent to our southeast, which is over 3 units an acre, if not 3.5 or higher. And the lot sizes there as well. I believe that development allows 50-foot wide and 60-foot wide lots. And so our lots are larger and our density is significantly lower than that adjacent property. So that's an overview of the proposed development and where the site plan has been designed. I think I'll just try to underscore that point, that low density residential, that's just a snip from the comprehensive plan, has what types of land uses are appropriate in these future land use map categories. And so in low density residential, single family residential areas, less than 4 units an acre. And we are well within that sort of planning range of density at, less than half of what the future land use map would on paper accommodate, but of course, that provides a roadmap, and I think zoning decisions and developments need to be specifically tailored for that context, and we hope that the council agrees that this plan would do that. So thank you very much for your consideration of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions that y'all may have, but would like to reserve the balance of my time for a rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Lanham. Is there any council members that wish to ask questions?
Okay. I'm a little confused, I guess, by the encumbered area. It seems as though that particular area has had a huge impact on what our site plan looks like or what it used to look like. Having never lived in a community that actually has an HOA, maybe I'm just not familiar with how an area can be covenant restricted and what exactly the legal terminology of encumbered means. Does the HOA own that property?
So, no ma'am. So that portion of the subject property, that central encumbered area, is owned by the same property owner that owns the balance of the subject property. It's actually part of the same tax parcel, so it was combined at some point by the tax assessors or the subdividing authority there. But there and forgive me, my role in this has been sort of just zoning and land use counsel. There are real estate transactional attorneys that are handling the specifics on the transaction, but my understanding of that is going back a few decades, there was some sort of restriction that was recorded on that property, and it may have even been not necessarily a part of covenants. It may have been in one of these transfer documents where some sort of right or approval was withheld from a transferor. But my understanding is the effect of that is it limits the utilization of that property for residential lots. And I think specifically the way it is it doesn't allow the subdivision of that property to accommodate more than 2 lots. And so that's why you can see here, there's just a small area where a portion of 2 lots is included within there. And so that's to try to stay within our understanding as advised from real estate transactional counsel that limits that to no more than 2 lots. And so in one of those decades-old plats, it showed 2 lots on there. And so that's some of the history there. I hope that answered the question. Yes, ma'am.
Any other council members with questions for the applicant?
I have a number of questions, but I'm not sure whether Mr. Lantham is the person to answer them or not. Any idea how many existing parking spaces there are in the current or former country club parking lot?
Over in that amenity area over there, candidly, I'm not sure of the exact number. I think it's been a while since the last time that they were striped. And so I think when that area is rehabilitated for amenity use, it could likely come with it a sort of redesign, repaving, restriping of that area just as conditions warrant. But just to get to the main point of your question, I'm not sure exactly what the current parking spaces is out there.
And then my next question is, on the site plan as we're looking on it here, south is at the bottom of the page, I assume. With the buffer, the 15-foot buffers shown between the existing homeowners from the Southwind Garmin Drive area, would that be planted or fenced? Because it looks as though that street is just 15 feet off the property line.
Yes, so that's right. So you read that right. So looking at, just to make sure I'm thinking of the same area that you were, in this area, you would have the property line of the subject property. Then moving north, you'd have that 15-foot wide buffer. and then you'd have the right-of-way for that internal subdivision street. As of right now, what we're proposing is to have that same, 15-foot wide, graded and replanted buffer as applied across the property. We'd be open to, more specific attention on certain areas of the property wherever that made sense. But as proposed right now, the configuration would be that same 15-foot wide buffer.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Oops, one question. Jason quoted 125 lots and you quoted 126 lots, which is 126? Okay.
On this plat that we have, it's 126.
Okay.
Is what's written there. Mr. Lanham, if you can, on the street to the north, that would be adding in, going into that last spur. Yes, along there, that where you see where existing Beaver Creek. Yep, that lot number 6 is not very deep on there, and then there'll be a road in that backyard, or just beyond that backyard. So again, that would just be the 15-foot buffer, and then you would have that street there.
That's what's proposed, but I think we, in specific instances like that, I think we would be more than happy to consider, additional protections in that case. Because as you mentioned, that lot has a lot of, call it, frontage with the subject property, and so that could be a different experience than some of those more narrow lots where their, common boundary line is less than that one. So cases like that, we'd be happy to look at more specific screening requirements, or even fencing requirements, if that's something that council would prefer to see there.
Any other questions of council for the applicant?
Mr. Lanham, you have 9 minutes and 20 seconds for rebuttal.
Thank you.
Now, having heard from the planning director and from the applicant, we will open the floor to public comment. We will begin first with anyone in support of the project, or if anyone deems themselves not in support or against, but just wants to make comments, then we will throw you into this group. So if there is anyone who would like to speak in support or make a general comment on the plan, please step forward and provide your name and address for the record.
Tricia Rollins, 2088 Harbor Oaks Drive. Not a question for or against. I just, I'm curious as to how the Planning Commission ruled on this. Can you tell us?
The Planning Commission voted denial.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Seeing no one coming to speak in support, we will close that area of the public comment, and we will open the floor to anyone speaking in opposition.
Good evening, council members. My name is Christina Kit Vincic, and I have lived at 1410 Summit Chase Drive for 2.5 years now. Beside me is Megan Palich, also of Summit Chase. We are speaking for Snellville residents and homeowners in Summit Chase, Timberline Trace, Misty Fairways, Misty River Estates, Alta Ridgeway, South Winds, and Steeplechase. These 7 neighborhoods surrounding the green zone include 648 homes. Together, we oppose the rezoning for 5 reasons. The rezoning, 1, 1, has a shaky legal foundation. 2, rests on a flawed application. 3, violates the 2045 comprehensive plan. 4, is incompatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. 5, raises a host of concerns from homeowners and neighbors that the developer failed to address. And 6, ignores a variety of alternate uses that are far more compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. We know the developer need only submit a conceptual site plan, but this one lacks basic details the city requests for such a substantial project. So we ask you to do what the Planning Commission did unanimously, even with a deeper buffer and more protections for the neighborhood. Vote no on the proposed rezoning. First, the developer's plan has a shaky legal foundation. Under the UDO, the developer must show and certify that all contiguous property is under their ownership or control is included within the boundaries of the concept plan, but that's not clear here. That's because the developer does not have complete control over 2 lots within the proposed rezoning area. Steeplechase lots 55 and 56 were purchased separately from the golf course in 1994, and they are subject to the legally binding Summit Chase Homes Association covenants and restrictions like all the other green turf properties. Yet the developer included these 10.7 acres in all versions of his site plan and has sworn that he has control over them, even though they may not be re-subdivided. Perhaps to distract from this, the association has been accused of refusing to cooperate. This refers to spring of 2024, when the landowner raised the idea of granting the HOA use of the country club in exchange for rewriting the steeplechase covenant and bylaws to release those lots. No agreement was reached because the association was not given time for due diligence before moving on to the application before you tonight, which places lots 5 and 6 on the encumbered property, like you heard earlier. Site Plan V2 showed that releasing this covenant would not reduce the number of houses, but increase it from 148 to 150. A slightly large buffer is not a fair trade and does not change the same fundamental problems that all the versions share. Gross density calculations are used to support their application. However, that is misleading due to the large amounts of unbuildable land unbuildable open land that skew that number, and should not be used to determine whether or not the application is reasonable. It should also not be compared to Soleil's gross density because that site is zoned residential housing for older persons, which is allowed more density and is explicitly supported use of land by the comp plan goals. Soleil is not building within our existing neighborhood, and they have a separate egress onto Rosebud. In fact, Soleil's experienced builder did an extensive geophysical survey on the site and declined to purchase it. Furthermore, under the UDO, any applicant seeking to rezone property to a classification that is inconsistent with the adopted comp plan must first obtain approval of an amendment to the comp plan from the City Council. This rezoning violates the 2045 comp plan in numerous ways, as we will detail. No such amendment has been sought or obtained. Second, the developer's flawed rezoning application alone is reason to reject this proposal that is non-responsive due to violating the city's requirements by failure to provide written documented analysis and for restating questions. Let's explore the developer's false statements for a moment. The developer says the proposed rezoning is suitable given nearby properties. That's incorrect. Both RS30 and RS5 may be classified as single-family detached, but the similarities end there. The newly established RS5 differs dramatically from the adjoining estate residential properties. According to the UDO, RS5 is intended to provide areas for high-quality, small-lot, single-family detached housing in a walkable setting. Generally, a walkable setting implies that destinations such as stores, restaurants, parks, churches, and schools are within a short walk. But Summit Chase is not a walkable setting. The nearest stores and restaurants are 30 or more minutes walk away. Briscoe Park is a 2-hour walk away. And many of the roads along which one would have to walk lack sidewalks and crosswalks. Realistically, residents would have to travel by car. In short, the proposed development does not conform to the intent of the zoning district as defined by the UDO. The developer says the zoning proposal would not adversely affect the surrounding homes. That's inaccurate. We have already felt the harmful impacts of the Soleil development. In addition to the years of blasting and construction they are enduring from Soleil in their backyards, residents on Green Turf, Classic Drive, and Summit Turf Lane would be doubly impacted by increased traffic from hundreds of new residents driving past their front yards. Owners invested in homes because of the amenities, lot sizes, safe, quiet streets, and natural features. If this rezoning goes through, all of our streets will be less safe to drive, walk, and live on. The developer writes that the land does not have a reasonable economic use as currently zoned, but it has been a private golf course and country club for decades, which shows the parcel does have potential for economic uses as currently zoned, especially if it were open to the public. In fact, the landowner admitted that there have been previous parties interested in purchasing the land to develop it at RS30. Therefore, the land has viable uses without rezoning it to RS5. The developer says his plan will not burden streets and neighborhoods. The rezoning imposes problems including damage to aging sewer lines, timely access by emergency services, and further burdening our underperforming schools. And this neighborhood within a neighborhood will turn our streets into thoroughfares because Highway 78 is roughly 1.5 miles from the country club exit by road. The developer says the rezoning is in line with the FLUM, but that's true only if you approve his application to amend it. The current version specifies that this site is one of only 3 large parcels zoned as recreational in the entire city. There is simply no way to say that building 126 homes on tiny lots is consistent with the current FLUM. That is why he is requesting to amend it along with the rezoning application. The developer lists no existing changing conditions affecting the use and development of the property that would justify their request for rezoning. If nothing has changed, then why rezone it after all these decades? His profit margins are not a sufficient reason. He claims the development will meet the city's need for housing diversity, but left out a critical qualifier, near town center, which their area is not. Plus, if, as he claims, these houses will be priced between $500,000 and $600,000, they will not add affordable or diverse housing stock to Snellville. In the following excerpt from the UDO, the city pledges to support its beloved, spacious neighborhoods and expand housing opportunities close to town center. Furthermore, none of the diversity goals outlined in the comp plan apply to this proposed development. Simply put, the developer failed to provide sufficient answers to any of the city's questions. Third, it is difficult to imagine a rezoning proposal that more completely violates the 2045 comp plan than this one. This area is characterized by estate residents on generous lots. Indeed, the adjoining lots range from 36,000 to 200,000 square feet, inserting a winding path of 126 homes on lots that average 13,000 square feet would fundamentally distort the existing character description. Some have claimed this rezoning complies with the comp plan by focusing only on the word reinvigorate, and ignoring everything else about this character area. However, the comp plan says that Summit Chase already is a reinvigorated neighborhood, not that it needs to be reinvigorated. The rezoning would crowd, and to use the Planning Commission's term, invade rather than reinvigorate our neighborhood. Nor is the proposed rezoning consistent with the comp plan's key strategies for the Summit Chase area. Those include preserve green space and wooded areas. The rezoning would destroy both. Protect the Big Haynes Creek watershed. The rezoning would endanger this, increasing erosion and silt accumulation as well as displacing wildlife. Focus on reinforcing neighborhood stability by encouraging more homeownership and maintenance or upgrade of existing properties. Rezoning does nothing to encourage more home ownership as opposed to renting. Additional outlines other goals such as create a space for people to meet and gather within neighborhoods, identify and acquire parcels for additional future parks and green space, improve access to parks and green space from neighborhoods, enhance existing neighborhoods with convenient access to sidewalks, greenways, and parks. The rezoning accomplishes none of these goals, but it undermines all of them. Fourth, the developer's proposed rezoning is fundamentally incompatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. The only other RS5 lot in the entire city that we know of is located on a small parcel off Lenore Church Road near the town center. These proposed lots with a 10,000 square foot minimum are only a small or even tiny fraction of the size of an RS30 lot which surrounds the site. The incompatibility becomes most vivid when we look at specific lots. For example, take this 4.5-acre lot on Southwind Court. The developer wants to construct 19 houses and a street along this person's backyard. Also, the detention pond here is on a massive granite slab uphill from existing homes. Or take these lots in another area of Southwind. These two houses were built over 30 and 40 years ago, and the owners selected their locations on these 2+ acre lots because they knew they backed up on a golf course that has been there since the 1970s. In stark contrast, the developer intends to construct 10 houses and a road looking into their backyards. Fifth, the developer has done nothing to resolve residents' serious concerns with the development that go above and beyond mere complaints. Devaluation of existing properties and reducing quality of life for current residents. The builder stated construction would begin in 2 years and last up to 10, depending on the market. Would you purchase a home that had a decade's worth of construction set before it? Many residents have expressed high levels of stress and trouble sleeping at night since this application was made public. Due to the Soleil land development, surrounding residents have experienced earthquake-like house shaking from blasting and sounds of explosions, which I can personally feel and hear over a mile away at my home, and noise from heavy machinery on a daily basis. This shows immediate and direct reduction of quality of life for existing residents. The necessary extensive blasting will damage existing homes. Sizable areas of exposed granite exist on the property. The builder has publicly admitted that he would have to blast, and he has no prior experience blasting. So this first foray into blasting will not be in an open area. It will be right next to existing homes in the middle of existing neighborhoods. This cannot help but inflict structural damage to foundations, release radon into homes and waterways, and crack septic tanks and swimming pools. Although some have experienced damage to homes already, we are told insurance companies routinely deny claims if the blasting levels are not over legal limits, leaving us unprotected from harm with no true recourse. The development will exacerbate already congested traffic. City officials say that traffic is a county problem, but it cannot be ignored and passed to others. The incomplete sidewalks and non-existent traffic lights for neighborhood exits onto Rosebud create dangers for drivers and pedestrians. When Soleil and additional townhomes going up in the 78 East Node are complete, the current traffic problems on Rosebud will be compounded. The proposed houses do not complement the character of the surrounding neighborhoods. Many adjoining estates have over 3 acres of land and would be boxed in by numerous homes. Construction and deforestation will cause water pollution, erosion, and silt accumulation in the nearby creeks and lakes. Satellite imaging reveals how the site plan disregards secondary conservation areas, which presents a liability to the city. Johnson Lake, directly downhill from the parcel, is already being inundated with runoff from Soleil. More construction will bring more silt into our lake, increasing the risk of flooding for lakeside homes and could render Timberline Trace impassable. The cost of these readily expected damages would fall on members of Summit Chase HOA, which is unacceptable. The green zone has rewilded and become a haven to a diverse array of wildlife. It is our duty to make some considerations for the needs of wildlife when developing our city. Development at this density would cause widespread loss of life and destruction of critical habitat for many wild animals and birds. Subsequent rodent displacement would pose yet another threat to existing homeowners. Amending the FLUM would cut the amount of recreational land in Snellville by over 30%, which would forever change the values and goals Snellville has proclaimed for decades about acquiring and preserving green space. Last, the proposed development ignores a wide variety of alternate uses for this land. The landowner has publicly stated that he isn't trying to hurt anyone with this endeavor, and we are not trying to hurt him. We only wish to protect our neighborhood and its environment from permanent harm. We recognize that he can develop the land as currently zoned, RS30, and understand his wish to sell it. But there are other ways to accomplish these goals that minimize the impact on existing residents and preserve us some green space. Here are 7 alternate uses. Explore other unique opportunities such as commercial, agricultural, and agritourism uses. At the very least, develop the property as currently zoned while limiting blasting activities and protecting secondary conservation areas. This directly supports maintaining current property values while keeping appropriate size lots and
5 minutes remaining.
Thank you. Keeping appropriate size lots and remaining within the developer's area of expertise. Procure a new owner-operator to run the country club by listing the club for sale or lease on the open market. Offer residents the option of purchasing portions of the fairway, as many have made inquiries about this possibility. Sell the event venue, but donate the fairway portion back, like Vines Park. Grant the city or county a conservation easement. Transfer the property to the city or county as a low-maintenance passive park like Oak Road Park. The landowner has already profited from the sale and development of the open and more buildable part of the golf course with direct road access. The rest of the land is suitable as currently zoned, given the various options for realizing its full potential. If despite all this information, the Planning Commission's unanimous decision, you approve the rezoning, given the dangers of this project that it imposes, we have listed conditions and protections that should be placed on page 18 of the report we sent you on March 19th. In conclusion, the Planning Commission unanimously rejected the developer's proposed rezoning, that this proposal is and they recognize that this proposal is fundamentally at odds with the 2045 comp plan and incompatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. Nothing has changed since then, and we urge you to affirm their recommendation tonight. This property is not just another piece of vacant land. It is a riparian buffer along the federally protected Big Haynes Creek watershed and home to vast arrays of flora and fauna, unique granite outcroppings, and pristine forest habitats that protect local wildlife. For over 40 years, it has been an enclave and a recreational respite from urban life. Losing it will cost Snellville over 30% of its recreational land. That is not in the best interest of our residents. The developer admitted that this is a speculative development and part of his effort to add neighborhood tracts to his portfolio, but that's not a reason to hinder the ability of future generations to thrive here, especially when this application is poorly crafted, when he has ignored residents' valid concerns, and when he has ignored other viable uses of this land as currently zoned. The applicants may even threaten litigation. Please do not cave to scare tactics, especially when the Planning Commission found multiple Georgia Supreme Court rulings that would buttress a no vote tonight. Please show that our comp plan is not just platitudes that can be changed at the whim of a developer, but that it offers residents predictability, stability, and protection. We beg you to hear our collective voice and help us preserve the character and natural resources within this long-standing, cherished oasis. On behalf of the nearly 500 residents, visitors, and supporters of this effort, please deny the developer's request to rezone the land and amend the FLUM. Thank you for your time.
Excuse me, please. Remember at the outset, no applause, please. There's 2 minutes remaining.
How much was remaining, Mayor? 2 minutes. All right, I'm just going to go to my last 4 points instead of going through all of it. Hopefully somebody else will have a minute to talk.
Mr. Dial, can you please just give your name and address for the record?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm Ken Dial of Misty River Estates, live on Zermatt Way. Point number 1, the will of the people on this is evident. There's 494 signatures on that petition. I hope all of y'all have seen or have a copy of. There are about 60 to 70, 80 people here tonight that are against this, and as you've already been said, the Planning Commission voted to deny this 6-0. Point number 2, I'm going to have to skip that one because I'm not having my earlier examples. Point 3, if any of you have a friendship or relationship with the seller of this property, and you know that deep down within you that this is going to affect your vote, that's a bias, and that is wrong. Number 4, in your oath of office, y'all all have taken an implied fiduciary responsibility to do what is best in the interest and also to vote what is best in the interest for the citizens of Snellville. I appreciate you listening. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Dial. There are 50 seconds left. You have less than a minute.
Good evening. My name's Kenneth Morgan. I live on Timberline Trace, and we've been in here 21 years, and I've been in the city of Snellville for a quarter of a century, 1/3 of our lives. I have extensive experience in public utilities, 44 years of public service, 6 years in the Army National Guard Engineering Battalion. So I know what's in that ground, and I have not slept well for the last 6 years, knowing this was coming up and knowing what's going on there. You should consider the vets, the seniors. There's people in their 90s living in these neighborhoods. And as Kit so eloquently said, this is going to affect hundreds of families. I'm worried about radon coming into our foundations, and I know what's got to be blasted out of there. You've got retention ponds right behind your neighbors' houses. How big do they have to be? 100 feet? How deep? Would you go on top of Stone Mountain and try to make a pond? That's what some of the stuff is that's in here.
Your time is
Thank
up,
you
sir.
for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Now, given that time has expired, I will close the public hearing portion and will entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, skipping right over you. The applicant had reserved 9 minutes, so please step forward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to touch on a few of those points. I mean, first off, to be clear, the subject property is under common ownership, period. That's just the plain fact of the matter. I also want to touch on that encumbered area. We included that area with some residential lots on a previous version of the site plan in an effort to try and address some of the concerns that we heard from neighbors, specifically at the community meeting that we held on the subject property. The benefits of that, we discussed, were a wider buffer, and it allowed us to provide this access from Classic Drive, which we felt like was appropriate and was a serious concern, specifically from people that were living on green turf. Now, as I mentioned in my initial remarks, we think that those encumbrances ultimately are vulnerable to legal challenge. It's been done before. We wouldn't be the first property owner in the close vicinity of the property to achieve that result, but we do want to try to be respectful of the surrounding community, and if it's their wishes to leave that as a block of primarily or mostly undeveloped area, then we will go that route, and that's why we've proposed the site plan the way that it is tonight, was to remove the bulk of the development from there. I also want to touch on, there are some aspects that were mentioned, blasting and grading. Those activities are not unique to the requested zoning classification. Those are development tasks, development techniques that would be required under any development of the subject property, essentially, even under its current zoning. So there's nothing about the proposed zoning classification that demands or dictates or forces blasting or grading, separate from what development techniques would have to be utilized under the property's current zoning. Ultimately, and respectfully, I would submit to council that the appropriate future land use map designation of the subject property is as the surrounding land is designated, and that's residential low density. The comprehensive plan policies accommodate single-family detached land uses, such as the proposed development. It accommodates the RS5 zoning classification, which is per code a low-density residential zoning classification. But the modified RS5 goes even further than what the comprehensive plan in combination with the UDC would accommodate for the subject property at lot sizes that are double the minimum per code, lot widths that exceed the minimum per code, and a density at 1.32 units an acre that is well below that 4 units an acre maximum that's described and discussed in the comp plan and the zoning ordinance. So would submit that the proposed development does strike a balance, especially with buffering and with the access, which is very challenging and will be very expensive from a development to provide. But we felt that it added value there, but strikes a balance between surrounding single-family residential development of various age classes and construction timelines, and adjacent the single-family RHOP 55 in the Soleil development. And we submit respectfully that the proposed development strikes an appropriate balance, giving all those factors. With that, I'd like to ask the property owner, Mr. Don Britt, to come up and make some remarks, and I yield to him my remaining time.
You have 5 minutes and 30 seconds, Mr. Britt.
Thanks for allowing me to address you on behalf of my family about this zoning. And we've been a part of this community for a very long time. And we've always supported the community. We've taken pride in helping our community thrive and grow. And we've owned Summit Chase Country Club and the remaining property since 1980 and operated the business there until December of 2022. I had a lot of information about how we got to the point we got to with the golf industry and how it changed and things that we did, but all the way up to the Great Recession and overgrowth of golf that we had in the 1990s. Supply and demand works. There was more supply than there was demand in these facilities, and so even up until 2016, when the National Golf Foundation put out a report that said that 25% of the golf courses in the nation need to close so the other 75% can survive. And that's happened over the last 8 years in the national market and the local markets itself. And we did everything we could do to stay in business. Everything we did. We opened for public play. We opened a restaurant open to the public. Every offering we had and every aspect of our business was available to anyone with interest, but the end was closing in on us. So we made a push with Soleil and that development on the front nine and a plan of remaining open. And we spent between $600,000 and $700,000 renovating facilities in that preparation. After much delay and disagreement with Soleil Development and the limited demand for facilities from the residents in our area, our plan didn't work out. And the cost of operating and maintaining the property became impossible. We made the difficult but necessary decision to close the course and then the remaining facilities. For the past 2.5 years, we've continued to have significant expenses as well as challenges that go along with a vacant property while trying to plan for its future. I've read the opposition's report and their thoughts of better uses. Before we contracted with KJ, I personally have tried most every one of those. We did offer to give the tennis courts, swimming pools, clubhouse, all that to the HOA and let the community use it. And we in order to try to develop the rest of the property. But after a couple meetings, over a year, and then I actually sent a written offer, there was no interest. In addition, we worked for several months with a group to preserve and operate the golf course, and I couldn't get it to the finish line. I met with the county commissioner, Jasper Watkins, and the county parks director about it becoming a park. There was no interest. I spoke with former city manager Butch Sanders about the same possibilities. After a couple years of work, there was no traction or interest in these options. I met Cameron, and he had an interest for the property and the development and the repurpose of the amenity. In the end, it was the only viable option that will give us reasonable economic use for our property. We contracted with KJ in the summer of 2024, and the zoning process was scheduled for last October. At the suggestion of the planning department, we hosted a community meeting to get feedback. It was well attended, but most of the feedback was wanting the property to remain the same and questions on how current homeowners would benefit. There were many comments that were reflected that evening as well as in the report about the sanctuary, quote unquote, of the property and it being the current homeowners' backyards. It is private property. The Summit Chase HOA attorney, Jonathan Benatar, attended the meeting. After the meeting, we contacted him about the restrictions on the center property that we purchased in 1987. I still have the contracts. Our family attorney, Jody Campbell, and Mr. Benatar had a discussion and agreed to work together to remove these restrictions if we addressed their concerns that included a different entry and buffers. After receiving their feedback, KJ Luxury Homes, in good faith, went back to the drawing board and took the expense to change these concerns. After spending significant time and expense to make changes, we were told by the HOA attorney that the HOA itself voted unanimously not to work with us. This left us going back to the original plan, making modification. There is a precedent for removal of these restrictions, but without working together, it would be long, hard, and expensive.
1 minute remaining.
The original zoning submission has merit and density of 1.5 units per acre and far less than the developers in Soleil. This zoning falls well within the presence of this zone of zonings granted by this body in the city and in the immediate area. I've also read the opposition report and just heard it, that it was stated in the Planning Commission that they think that we will get preferential treatment due to my volunteer status in the city. We're not asking for special treatment, but we are asking for fair and equitable treatment. You will render our land to have very little or no value by not approving this reasonable zoning. It will be a violation of our rights as property owners. We're not asking for density that was approved in the past zonings in this immediate area. We've made concessions that are very costly to both our family and the developer. We've gone over and above to work with the local community to make this a better project. They have chosen not to work with us, and as a result, this is the design that we have.
Your time is up, Mr. Britt.
What else would you do?
Thank you, sir. And now, I believe we have heard from support, the applicant, and opposition. So I am closing the public hearing portion of the meeting, and at the outset, I typically read the heading that is on our agenda, and I failed to do that in giving the instructions, so I will do that now, and then I will ask for a motion from council. This is second reading, RZ 24-04, LUP 24-02. Consideration and action on applications by KJ Luxury Homes LLC, the applicant, and Summit Chase Country Club, Inc., the property owner, requesting A, to amend the Snellville 2045 future land use map from park residential to residential low density, and B, amend the official zoning map from RS30 Single Family Residential District to RS5 Single Family Residential District for a 150-lot, single-family detached subdivision and 19.66 acres of open space, including country club-style tennis courts, swimming pool, clubhouse, and other amenities for residents to enjoy on a 95.386-acre vacant, unused golf course and country club site with a gross density of 1.57 lots per acre, situated along Green Turf Drive, Classic Drive, 3197 Classic Drive, Snellville, Georgia, tax parcel 5093106. Is there a motion by council?
Motion to approve LUP 24-02 and along with RZ 24-04 with the staff recommended conditions that were read into the record previously by Mr. Thompson.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor to approve RZ 24-04 and LUP 24-02. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second on the table, so we will open council comments, debate.
Madam Mayor, this case before us has taken a lot of twists and turns, and we received the most recent design, I believe last Thursday is the first time I saw it. I understand there is a motion on the floor, but I would ask this body if we can continue this public hearing to the April 28th meeting. to give time to review this drawing and confer with a number of parties that are a part of this decision. And again, that would be, I guess, a secondary motion, and my fellow members would have to allow it.
Thank you, Mr. Warner.
I believe it would need a second.
We would need to, we need a second for that first.
Madam Mayor, there's two ways to do what Councilmember Warner is proposing. One is to do a secondary motion like he's asking, which would need a second and then a vote, or it would be withdrawing of the initial motion and then a new motion to table it to the next meeting. The legal ramifications is if we do the secondary motion, the motion to approve is still on the table for the next meeting. Doesn't mean it can't be withdrawn. If it's withdrawn, it's just tabled and we just come back to the table next time. So it's however you all want to do it. But if it sits at now, Mr. Warner's motion will need a second.
Then we have a motion to postpone as a secondary motion. Is there a second to that? Second. All right, hang on. Let me keep my notes here so I know where we are. Okay, so we have a secondary motion, so any comments on a motion to postpone?
Only, as I said, that this is a rezoning of fairly large impact to the whole of Snellville, not just my community. And since we did receive the updated drawings at a fairly late date, I would appreciate the opportunity for us to thoughtfully consider the ramifications of all the changes before moving forward.
For my part, I think I agree with you, Mayor Pro Tem, is that allowing a little more time to digest this newer plan, seeing if there are any other options that we can look at. This is I mean, it's a difficult one for sure. So I think it would be in everybody's best interest if we've got time to really take a look at any other potential options on this. Anyone else?
I did second the original motion, but I will not ask my co-counsel to rush a vote, so I do support postponing.
Okay, so
Madam Mayor, I know Councilmember Warner stated this, but just to reiterate, it is to table it to the April 28th meeting, correct? Okay. There would be no public hearing at that time.
okay, so really what we're tabling is the final vote.
Correct.
We've done the public hearing, so there would be no additional public hearing at that point. So we have a secondary motion on the table to table this, the final vote, to April 28th meeting, and we have a second. So no further discussion on that motion. I will ask for the vote. All in favor to postpone or to table, please raise your hand. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor. Any opposed? 1 opposed. So the motion to table has passed. So the motion to approve the RZLUP is still on the table, but it will be taken up at our April the 28th meeting.
And Madam Mayor, before we proceed with any further business, some of you may know, my father's in the hospital. He had a stroke over the weekend. He's a member of this community, lives on Zermatt Way. And I've made it through the meeting so far, but I asked to be relieved, so I may be at his side.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, Mayor Pro Tem. So Mayor Pro Tem has left the meeting. With that item of business done, as I said before, I will give a 5-minute recess for anyone who would like to leave, and then we will take up our final business. If you're staying, if you could please take your seats. If you're staying, if you will please take your seats. We just have 2 more items of business to handle. Thank you. So I'll call the meeting back in session. We have no other, well, let me just make sure. No other public hearing items, no consent agenda or old business. We'll move to new business. We have item A, consideration and action on resolution 2025-05, renewal of the Certified City of Ethics designation. Every 4 years, the city readopts a resolution that establishes 5 ethics principles to maintain the City of Ethics designation. The principles are designed to help guide us as elected officials and as individuals in the governing body. And the principles are: serve others and not ourselves, use resources with efficiency and economy, treat all people fairly, use the power of our position for the well-being of our constituents, and create an environment of honesty, openness, and integrity. So all those in favor, we need a motion and a second first. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve Resolution 2025-05, renewal of the Certified City of Ethics designation.
There is a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. I'll take Norman on that one. You're just getting in on some of these seconds. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. That is 4 in favor, so none are opposed. And we have item B, consideration and action on resolution 2025-06, renewal of the Certified City of Civility designation. Again, this is a Georgia Municipal Association designation that promotes respect, trust, and belonging. By modeling and practicing civility, city and organizational leaders set an expectation that vigorous debate and vetting of ideas can be respectful and productive, leading to better engagement and outcomes for all. So we, as a council, have committed ourselves to be civil and to approve this Certified City of designation. Is there, civility. Is there a motion?
Okay, here we go. I make a motion to approve consideration of action resolution 2025-06, renewal of the Certified City of Civility designation.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
With a motion and a second, all in favor, please raise your hand. That is 4 in favor with none opposed. So that ends our regular business meeting. So we'll move to council reports, and we'll start with Councilmember Norman Carter.
Oops. Oh, where we go. Wow. Doesn't like me here. Thank you all for staying with us, and it's been a long meeting. A few things I'd like to announce. Number one, District 3 Commissioner Jasper Watkins will be holding a town hall meeting at 2 locations in this month. The first one will be on March 24th from 6:30 to 8 p.m., and that's going to be at the Cooler City Hall. And then on Monday, the 31st, and I'm going to make that one, that's going to be from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Gwinnett Justice and Administration Center Auditorium in Lawrenceville. That's March 31st, Monday, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Also, April 15th, put this on your calendar, State Senator Randall Mangum will hold a town hall here at City Hall. That begins at 6 p.m. on April 15th. Do your taxes first, then come to the meeting. Secondly, this is something I heard on the news today, and it inspired me to do a new action. Those of you with new cars and you've got key fobs, you need to get a club to put on your car, because now they have devices that can clone your fob and get into your car, especially if you have one of these F-150 vehicles or whatnot. So please, if you have a newer car that we're using a key fob, get a club or some sort of device that will disable your car from moving. But I just put the club on my car tonight. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Norman. And now we'll go to Councilmember Carrie Hetherington.
Very quick report this evening because it is after 9 p.m. I am very grateful to live in and live among a community that's committed to civility and ethics. And I'm very grateful and proud to sit on a council that is committed to the same and doesn't just do it sitting up here voting for it, but lives it. We've certainly had disagreements in the 18 months that I've been on council, and we have worked through them, and we continue to like each other and to work together and to communicate well. And the city is very blessed for that fact. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Carrie. And Councilmember Linsky.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Place Saturday, March 29th on your calendar. That's coming up in just a couple of days. We have our Briscoe Park Family Fun Day. There'll be food. That's enough reason to get me out there. Drink, fun, games, music, bounce houses. The starting time is 11 a.m. and that should go on to 3 p.m. Hopefully we will be blessed with some excellent weather as well. So March 29th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
And just one announcement from me tonight. I'm very excited to announce that the construction for the Briscoe Park Community Center and Gym will be commence on May the 5th. This is something that has been in the works for over 20 years and been on the table for discussion. So really, really, very exciting that we're actually getting to that point of moving dirt. With that, I will close the mayor's report and open the floor to public comment. If anyone would like to speak, you can come forward, provide your name and address for the record. 5 minutes on one topic, please.
Tricia Rollins, 2088 Harbor Oaks Drive. Just a question about the Veterans Memorial that's been off 32 days out there in front. I realize the city does not particularly own that. It did not when it was first started, but I feel like the city owes the citizens and everybody that has a part of that memorial a reason why it's been off for 32 days. The flame has been out. Tonight it's back on, of course, because we had the proclamation. But if you could let the citizens of Snellville know when that goes out. Since the insinuation, since it started in 2014, I think it was, that flame has gone on and off continuously, and I think some kind of decision needs to be made to fix it. I give every time there's a fundraiser. I'm willing to give more money for us to look into it, but for it to go on and off is a disgrace to our members. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Pat Reisler. I live at 3388 Summit Turf Lane, which is right at the corner of Rosebud and Summit Turf. I realize that the council has very little say-so over the roads because they're not Snellville roads, they're county roads. But what the council does have a say-so is our population by the amount of building permits that are granted. And I would just ask that you please consider that, deeply consider that when you are approving building or not approving building contracts. The traffic is horrible and it can get a whole lot worse. And speaking of the traffic, and I honestly don't know if you have any say or any pull on this, but as all of you know, the construction is up and down Rosebud Road. And when you get to Summit Turf, approaching the roundabout, these large trucks have a tendency to put on, they're either called Jake brakes or Jerry brakes, but they're their air brakes, and they go as early as 5 to 5:30 in the morning. And it sounds like a truck is falling apart in the front yard. If we have any way that we can just say, if you're going to be building in Snellville, that you have to really, take in consideration the quiet times, that'd be appreciated very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, everyone. My name is Bernella Ennis, and I live in Summit Chase from 2005. And it really bothered me to see that we're going to have so much things coming in there. I really love the neighborhood. And because of this, I really want to try to go. Because I want a quiet neighborhood. And Summit Chase is so, so nice. I love to live there. But from I hear this, they be putting these building and thing like that, I know it's not gonna be the same. I like to see the deer pass, like when I drive and pass and see all those little deers and the little babies. I love to see them. We know we're not gonna have that anymore. But I wanted to ask also, where in that area is Mr. River Estate? Because I know when I first went there, right at the corner, Zermatt Way, right there, it was a sign in that house at the corner on your left-hand side, where they put up the sign, but I think I don't see it there anymore. I would just like to know where is if the old Summit Chase, or just a part of Summit Chase is Mr. River Estate?
I'm not quite sure I understand your question. Are you asking where Misty River Estates is?
Right.
That's our neighborhood. That's your street. From those two brick signposts on Timberline, from that on back.
But is it there again? Because I don't see it. I don't see it marked. When I first went there, I see Misty River Estate. But that little sign, the little block that in that corner.
Then you would need to check with the homeowners association.
Yeah,
and
probably
see.
they take it down, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I love my neighborhood. If these houses came, I have to leave. I can't take those knives. I'm getting up in age, I'm not young. And I just love that neighborhood. And that's why I went there to live. So please, I'm begging you all, please, let our neighborhood stay just the same. We love it. And for me, I love the deer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. It's a long night. I know everybody wants to go home. Y'all had a busy night and a tough decisions to make, and I empathize with the homeowners in Summit Chase, and then I empathize with my fellow neighbors because I know how difficult it is to have the change come and disrupt your life. So you guys have some tough decisions to make, and I hope and pray that you guys make the right one that's best for everybody in the city. With that being said, when we ran for election, we had a question posed regarding the homeless issue in Snellville. I count to date 7 people in the city of Snellville pushing buggies in front of South Gwinnett High School, in front of the cemetery across the street from here, racetrack. And my question to the leadership is, what is the strategy to address this growing problem that's not going to go anywhere on its own? So I ask you to please, in writing, if you have a plan, please share that with those of us in the community that are working to help resolve this. I've actually taken a veteran to try to get some assistance to Fort McPherson so that they can receive the VA's assistance because this is a veteran. I know Gwinnett County has the Gwinnett One Stop and so forth for veterans, but sometimes it's a rabbit hole for veterans to receive those services. So I believe that each municipality should have a program that complements what the county is doing so that we can work together to end this growing problem. It's not going to go anywhere, and we're only as strong as our weakest link. So if we say we honor our veterans, we should do it not only when we are serving and fighting abroad, but we definitely should do it when we're home. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public comment and entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
There is a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. So motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. That is 4 in favor with none opposed, so we are done. Thank you all for coming out.